So hello, good day sir. Today I will perform my IT222 hands-on skill exam. So this is my final examination skills assessment on networking 1 IT222. This is the topology, the addressing table. So objectives: examine the network requirements. Part 2, design the VLSM addressing scheme. Part 3, assign IP addresses to devices and verify connectivity. Background: design a VLSM addressing scheme given a 192.168.100.0/24 network address. Based on a set of requirements, you will assign subnets and addressing, configure devices, and verify connectivity. Create the topology in Packet Tracer. Okay, so part 1, examine the network requirements. Determine the number of subnets needed. You will subnet the network address 192.168.100.0/24. The network has the following requirements: 32 ASW1 LAN will require 32 hosts, ASW2 LAN will require 6 hosts IP address, ASW3 LAN will require 24 host IP addresses, ASW4 LAN will require 60 host IP addresses. Now the question: how many subnets are needed in the network topology? So there are 1 network, 2 network, 3 network, 4 network, and including the router to router, there are 5 networks all in all. So there are 5 subnets that are needed in our network topology. So step 2, determine the subnet mask information for each subnet. Which subnet mask will accommodate the number of IP addresses required for ASW1? Which subnet mask will require the number of IP addresses? So in ASW1 will require 32 host IP addresses. So first I will go to my Excel. I will subnet first this examine the network requirements. So I will open. So here is my Excel, and for the network which has mag-subnet sa determine the subnet mask. Design the VLSM addressing scheme. Determine the subnet mask information for each subnet. Okay, so natin mo nang i-determine. So first ASW1, which ASW1 32 hosts. So as you can see in our cheat sheet, 32 minus 2, so hindi siya pwede. So dito siya applicable. And slash 26, so 192. So the question is, how many which subnet must accommodate the number of IP addresses required for ASW1? So 32, doon tayo sa 192. So ang subnet mask is 255.255.255.192 or slash 26. Then how many usable host address will this subnet support? So magsusupport ng usable host address ang subnet na ito 64 minus 2, so 62 ang kanyang may isusupport. 62 host addresses. Next, which subnet mask will accommodate the number of IP addresses required for ASW2? ASW2 6 host. So as we can see here, we have this /29, which is 248. So the subnet mask is 255.255.255.248 or slash, which is slash 248 slash 29. And how many usable host address will this subnet support? So you can see 8 minus 2, so 6 ang kanyang isusupport. Next, which subnet mask will accommodate the number of IP addresses required for ASW3 24, which is here in the /27 or 224. So 255.255.255.224 or /27. Then how many usable host addresses? So host addresses niya sa /27 is 32 minus 2, so 30 host addresses. 30. Next, which subnet mask will accommodate the number of IP addresses required for ASW4, which requires 60 host IP subnets? So dito pa rin sa 192 or /26. So 255.255.255.192 or /26. And so 62 ang usable host address. Which subnet mask will accommodate the number of IP addresses required for the connection between building 1 and building 2? So ang subnet mask na maka-accommodate ng number of IP addresses, so dalawa, hindi to pwede kasi mag -2 pa, so dito ang kanya maka-accommodate. So subnet mask na tinatanong, which is 252 or /30. So 255.255.255.252 or /30. Now we are done with our step 2. We are now continuing to the part 2, design the VLSM addressing scheme. Divide the 192.168.100.0 network based on the number of hosts per subnet. So use the first subnet to accommodate the largest LAN, so on and so forth. So we will now go to our Excel and we will now design our VLSM addressing. So the network is 192.168.100.0. So the network is 192.168.100.0 and the subnet mask is 255.255.255.0 subneti. So we will group this into the descending order. So first subnet to accommodate the largest LAN, and the largest LAN here is the ASW4 LAN will require 60 host IP addresses. So ASW4 LAN will require 60 hosts. Dito 60 na lang, number of hosts. Next is ASW1 LAN. One which needs Ayun, 32 host ASW. Next is the ASW 3, which requires 24 hosts. Next is ASW 2, which will require 6 hosts. And last, uh, the last network is the router to router, which requires 2 hosts. I mean 1. 2 di 2, sorry. Kasi yung IP address. So now we will do the VLSM. So the subnet in the 60 hosts, so dito 192/26 or 64. So 192.168.100.0, and the subnet mask is /26/26. So as you can see, the host bits is 64. So the next subnet is 192.168.100.64. So the host range from this network is from 192.168.100.1 up to 192.168.100.64, 6362. And the broadcast address is 192.168.100.63. Now next, 192.168.100.64. So ang next subnet nito is ASW3, which is 24. So dito siya na belong /27. So the ano niya bits is 32. So 192.168.100.64 plus 32 is 64. Calculator na ka pa sure. 64 plus 32 is 96. So the next subnet is 96, and the subnet mask here will be /20. Mali, baliktad. So /26 pa naman siya, so /26 siya, and here pala from accommodating the 32, which is ano pa siya dito, so mag-add pa tayo ng 64 kasi /26 pa yung subnet mask, so 64 plus 34 plus 128. So the host range is 192.168.100.65 up to 192.168.128, 127, 126. Okay, so the next subnet will be needing 24 hosts. So dito siya na belong sa slash 27. Ah, so since 32 ang bits niya, so 128 plus 32 is equals to 160. So the next subnet is 192.168.160. So the host range is from 192.168.100.129 up to 192.168.100.158. And the broadcast address is 192.168.100.159. Host needed. So we have done with the ASW3 network. Need ng 24. So next is from the ASW2 that will need host 6 host needed. So as we can see sa ating documentation, the ASW ano yung ASW next 2. So 2 which will require 6, nasa ano siya na subnet mask /29. So dito sa ano 8, so plus 8 na host bits. So 160 plus 8, so 192.168.100.168. So /29 192.168.100.168.161 and 192.168.100. 168, 167, 166 and 192.168.100.167. 67. Next is from the router to router, which is in the /30. So plus 4 bits tayo. /30. /30. So plus 4, the next subnet is 192.168.168. 168 plus 4 is 172. So 192.168.100.169 up to 192.168.100.171. Oh, 170. 192.168.100.171. And from 172, so since ano yon, 2 raised to the power of 3 is equals to the number subnet number of subnet. So 2 raised to the power of 3 is equals to ano siya mag to the power 2 raised to the power basta 8 na siya, 8 is equals to 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 172, dito tayo nagsustop. Basta dito lang yung gagamitin nating subnet 1 to 5, 3, 4, 5 yung ma-apply natin. And the number of host na host range 1 to 62. So 62. Dito is 62 pa rin. Dito is 30. Dito is 6. And here is 2. So we're done with our VLSM. Next is we will put it into our documentation. In the subnet table, complete the subnet table, listing the subnet descriptions, number of hosts needed, then network address for the subnet, the first usable host address, and the broadcast address. Repeat until all addresses are listed. Okay, for our ASW4 LAN, magano na tayo. Sa 1, number of hosts needed is 32. Network address is 192.168.100.64. First usable host address is 192.168.100.65, and the broadcast address is 127. So 192.168.100.127. Next is the ASW2 LAN, which requires 6 hosts needed. So 192.168.100.60 6 hosts needed, so 160. 192.168.100.161, and the broadcast address from ASW2 167. Next is ASW3 LAN. Number of hosts needed is 24. Then 192.168.100.16 24 128. Network address. Then the first usable is 192.168.100.129, and the broadcast address is 192.168.100.159. Next is the ASW4 LAN, which requires 60 hosts. 192.168.100.0 and 192.168.100.1, and the broadcast address is 63. 168.100.63. And next is from the router to router. Ano yung pangalan doon sa taas? Building 1 to building 2. Router to router. Router to router. Number of hosts. So, kaya ng dalawang IP address. And network is 192.168.100.168. First usable 192.168.100.169, and the broadcast address is 192.168.100.171. Okay, so we are done with the subnet table. Step 3, document the addressing scheme. Assign the first usable IP addresses to building 1 for the LAN links and the WAN link. Assign the first assign the first usable IP addresses to building 1. So first usable host IP addresses is from the building 1 for the two LAN links and the WAN link. Usable IP addresses. Okay. So sa building 1, yung mga first usable IP addresses na magagamit. Then assign the first usable IP addresses to building 2 for the two LANs links. Assign the last usable IP addresses for the one link. Okay. Assign the second usable IP addresses to the switches. Assign the last usable IP addresses to the hosts. And complete the addressing table. So, assign IP addresses to devices and verify connectivity. Configure IP addressing on routers interfaces. Configure IP addressing on router interfaces. Configure IP addressing on switches, including the default gateway. Configure the IP addressing on computer and verify. So, mag-ping. Okay, so let's start. This is our packet tracer. Already put my user profile. So in the instruction, assign the first usable IP addresses to building 1. First usable IP addresses sa tanan. So maglagay muna tayo ng mga network para dito maglibog. So sa dito na network is router to router 192.168.100.168. So network address 192.168.100.168, and the subnet mask is 255.255.255.30, which is 252. Next, from this network, 192.168.100.ASW1. So ASW1 is 64. And the subnet mask 192.168.100. Sorry, subnet mask 255.255.255. 26.192. Next is ASW2. Sorry. Six hosts /29 248. No, 160. And the subnet mask is 255.248. Okay. Next is this ASW3 92.168.100 ASW3 128 close record pa 25 slash 27 224 224 and the last ASW4 192. Okay, we are done labeling. So now we will configure the first instruction. Assign the first usable IP addresses to building 1 for the LAN links and the WAN link. So tanan na nakabilong dito sa building 1, first usable host IP addresses. So we will configure configure terminal. Configure. Enable. So, maglagay pa tayo ng label para libog. So, okay, so interface tayo? Gigabit 00. So, saan yun? So, interface gigabit 0/0. Next is IP address 192.168. Ano yung dito sa 00? 100.65 192.168.100.65 and subnet mask is 255.255.255.192. no shot exit. So interface gigabit 0/1 IP address 192.168.100.161 and the broadcast address 55.248 and no shot, then exit, then int s 0/3/0 IP address 192.168.255.255.269.252 and then no shot. Okay, so done sa building 1. We will change the name of this of this router. So exit then configure terminal, then hostname building one. Ay, pwede na space. Hostname building 1. Okay, so exit na. Daan na tayo sa router building 1. Next is from building 2. Label and configure terminal, hostname building 2. Okay, so now magko-configure na tayo. Configure na pala sa configure terminal. So int gigabit 0/0 IP address 192.168.100. So ano yung network niya dito? 128. And 128, so 129. Next is 255.254. No shot. Exit. So int gigabit 0/1 IP address is ano yung network? So 0, so 1 siya. IP address is 192.168.100.1 255.255. Ano yung subnet mask? 192 and no shot. Next is from the one network, this int s 0/3/0. Ay, wala pa ito nag-exit, sorry. Int s 0/3/0. So ang nakalagay na ano dito is assign the first usable IP addresses to building 2 for the two LAN links. Assign the last usable IP address. So ang last na usable IP address dito sa router to router is 170 192.168.100.170. So ang ilalagay natin is IP address 192.168.100.170 and the subnet mask is 255.252 and no shot. Okay, we are done with the nag-record pa ba? Okay, nag-record pa. So we are done the router configuration. Next instruction, assign the second usable IP addresses to the switches. So we will assign the IP addresses, the second usable IP addresses to the switches. So we are back to the Cisco packet tracer. We'll close this. So first, we're here sa switch 1. Next is enable configure terminal. So we will rename first our switch, hostname ASW/1. Next, we will assign IP addresses. So interface VLAN 1. Next is IP address 192.168. uh, second one, so 192.168.100.6465.66, and subnet mask 255 dot 192. Then no shot. Next is exit, then IP default gateway is 192.168.100.65. So finish, exit. Done na tayo sa ASW1. So next is the ASW2. Enable. So next sa enable is lutangan ako eh. Next sa enable is configure terminal. Next we will rename first hostname ASW2. We will assign IP address, so interface VLAN1. IP address is 192.168.1. So second usable 161. Next is 162. Then the subnet mask 248.162. 248, and no shut command, and exit. Then IP default gateway is 192.168.100.161. Okay, finish na. Next, from the ASW3, same procedure. ASW3 enter 128, 129, 130. No shot, then exit. IP default gateway 192.168.168. 129 then 129. Next, enable configure terminal host name ASW/4, then interface VLAN1. Put that one's IP address. IP address 0, so 1, 2 na siya, 2. Subnet mask 255. Then no shot, exit, and IP default gateway 192.168.100.1, exit. So we are done with the switches. We'll save the file first for in case of emergency. So we are done with the switches. Assign the last usable IP addresses to the hosts. So, sa mga computer. So, ito'y ano dapat dahil host atong name. So, host A, B, C, D. Let's rename this. Host A. Only 2.168. 64. So, ano yung sa network na 64? The last usable host address is 126. 192.168.100.126. Subnet mask is 192. Default gateway is 192.165. 126 192 subnet mask. Okay, goods na. Next sa PC1 160 o 166 so host B siya. Two, 168, 166 ba? Okay, 166. Then 248. Then 192.168.100. First usable 160, 161. So okay na. Next is the PC A, host B, host C. Host C ba to? CD. One 28. Wait lang. 128, 158, 158, 255, that 224, and the default gateway 192.168.100. 192.168.100.129. Okay, so host D, is 0, so 62. Lah, ano 62? Okay, tama. 62. And 192.168.100.1. Okay, so now we are done with the instruction. Assign the last usable IP addresses to the hosts. So complete the addressing table. So we will complete the addressing table. So sa device na pwede matypean. Mag-insert na pa. Insert. Text. Ano to? Adara. Ah, balik na siya dito. Ha? Ang dili na siya mataypan. Router, building 1. Copy paste. Ah, building 2. Ah, ano man eh. Building 2. So, sa building 1, gigabit 00, 192.168.100.65. Subnet mask is 255.22. Default gateway, none. Let's double check kung tama ba. Serial 00169 and slash 30. Okay, so tama. 255.248, 252. And now sa building 2, gigabit 00 is 192.168.100.00. 129. Double check kung tama ba. 129. Okay, so tama. 129 slash 27. So 129 255.224 192.168.100.01 1. So 1 255 192. Then dito yung second ano niya is 192.168.100.170. Let's double check kung 170. Okay, 170. 255.255.252. So tarang sa to og nag-record. Okay, so nag-record pa ta. Next, VLAN 1 192.168.100. So sa ESW1 natin is VLAN 1 192.66/26.66/26 which is 255 192 192.168.100. VLAN 1 building 1. So ang building 1 na IP address from gigabit 0 is .65. Tama. So 192.168.100.sw2 once 162 255. So gigabit 01, so 161. So 192.168.100.161 Next, save sa nato. Switch 3, VLAN 1, 128, 129, so 130. 128.100.130. So double check kung 130. Okay, so tama. 255.224, 192.168, 100.129, 192.168.100. Dot 100, 100, so 100, dot 2, 255, dot 255, dot 255, dot 192, default gateway, 192.168, dot 100, dot 1. So sa host A, the last usable, 192.168, dot 100, dot, so ano yung 156, 255, wala, ano 192, tama din. So sa host B, ang last na usable IP 166 is dot 166, 255, 255, 248, and 192.168.100, ano yung sa gigabit 01 161. So tanaw na to 161, tama. Next is 192.168.100. Host C, 158, 158, then 255.254, and 129. 129. Okay, save. Now 192.168.100. 62, then 255 dot 192, then the default gateway 192.168.100.1. Okay, so we are done with the addressing table. So next, na-configure na natin yung step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4. So, we will verify the connectivity. So, ipiping na natin yung PC. Ay, hindi pa pala tayo nag hindi pa tayo nag router rip. So, mag router rip muna tayo. Enable, then router rip. Ay, configure terminal. Then router rip. Then version 2. No auto summary. Then yung mga network nakabilang na belong dito sa tatlong network. So network 2.168.100.168, then network 192.168.100.64, then network 192.168.100.160. So okay na. Next, dito naman, so enable configure terminal, then router rip, then version 2, no auto summary, then network 192.168.100.168, network 192.168.100.128, then network 192.168.100.0. So we're done with the configuration of the network. The next is you can only verify connectivity. You should be able to ping every IP addresses listed on the IP address table. So magpiping tayo sa lahat ng IP addresses na nalilist sa IP. So magpiping na ping 192.168.100. So anong una natin ipiping? Ito na lang, .65. Okay, so nag-reply. Next, ping 192.168.100.161. So nag-reply din. Ping ping 192. So sa switch tayo, sa switch na ginamit natin dito sa ASW1 192.168.100.66. So nag-reply. Wala pa din nag-reply. Paabot sa ta. So goods. So 192.168.162. Pwede ba na? Okay, so nag-receive pa rin. So ano lang, medyo lag. So try natin naman PC to PC. Host A to host, anong gusto natin? To host D. So ping 192.168.100. Ano yung IP address sa host D? 62. So that 62. Nag-lag. So meron 25% loss. So okay pa rin yan. So itatry lang natin ulit para maging 0% loss. 2.168 100.62. So okay. So ano yung instruction? You can only verify connectivity. Every IP address listed in the address. You can only verify connectivity. So dapat tanan IP address i-verify na ako. So kanitanan IP addresses. Okay. So sa lang ta, hostbin lang ta mag-verify tanan. Sub naman from the top, frame 192.168. So unahin natin sa host to hosts 168.100.126. So may reply. Next is ping 192.168.100.166. So, nag-reply pa rin. 2, successful yung reply. Ping 92.168.100.158. So, nag-reply. Successful pa rin. Si 192.62. Ay, mom din niya sarili. Di din niya sarili din. So, okay sa host. So, sa switch naman. Ping 192.168.100.66. Okay, so may reply. So, ping 192.168.100.162. Okay, may reply pa rin. Ping 192.168.100. Ano to? 130. Sa tanang switches muna, yung IP address na ipiping natin. So, successful yung reply. Ping 192.168.2. So, successful pa rin yung reply. Next is from the IP addresses sa lahat ng routers na nilagay. So, ping 192.168.100.65. So, may reply. So, successful. Ping 192.168.100.161. So, may reply pa rin. And successful. Then, next ping 192.168.100.169. So, may reply. It is still successful. Ping 192.168.100.129. Next, ping 192.168.100.129. So, that one. Okay, so successful. Then, the last but not the least, 2.168.100.1. Meron pa pala dito. Last 192.170. Okay, so successful lahat yung pagpipay natin sa lahat ng IP addresses. Okay, so save na natin. So, I guess that's all, sir. Babasahin mo natin yung mga needs na Okay, so na-design na. Tapos step 1 and step 2 na-answer na natin. Okay, so I guess that's all for my final examination in this IT 222 Networking 1 Skills Assessment, sir. So that's all, sir. Thank you. Have a good day.